right, we're going to get started. So, hello and welcome to my presentation today. Let's come together and talk about how we go about protecting our critical infrastructure one state at a time. My name is Chris Hansen, and I'm excited to be here to tell you all about the Wisconsin and how we're leading the change in the cyber front to secure all of the state's critical infrastructure. So, the age-old question of who am I? Obviously, my name's Chris Hansen, so I had to take a seat in there. So I'm a digital forensics incident response engineer at Northwestern Mutual, board member for the local DEF CON group DC 608 out of Madison, and an incident responder for the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team, which we'll get into a little bit. I enjoy hockey, F1, and speaking Spanish with anyone who's open to speaking with me. So if you want to talk later, feel free. We're going to just jump into some story time, and this kind of plays into a lot of things. So I want to tell the story to set the stage. We're going to start with definitions real quick. So what is critical infrastructure? We see this thrown out all over the place. It's such a common phrase, and everyone has their own way of looking at it. The reason I bring that up is because a lot of what this conversation is going to evolve into may not be what you're used to for critical infrastructure in incident response or IT and as a whole. Emergency management has a completely different version of it. But we view critical infrastructure as these 16 different categories, such as chemical, commercial facilities, communications, critical manufacturing, dams, defense industrial bases, emergency services, energy, financial services, food, agriculture, government facilities, healthcare and public health, information technology, nuclear reactors and materials and waste, transportation, and waste and water services. So if any of your industries fall under this, you are under CISA's definition, critical infrastructure. So congrats. This is very much going to apply to you. Now that we've defined what critical infrastructure is by CISA standards, we need to dive into that a little bit. So we're going to set the stage with a story. So one of the ones that we've kind of come up with is there was a network engineer who decided that he was going to go and apply for his dream job. He ended up getting a job. Thank goodness we all want one in this day and age. And then he decided that he was going to go work with the school district. Funny enough, he goes in, day out, loves his job. He's able to do everything that he wants to, network administration, do all the fun things, until one day the network starts to have some issues. 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, starts going a little bit slower, starts noticing some irregularities, and anyone that knows that Friday is a great day for, threat actors or people to never look at your network because that's when things go bad. So in this case, of course, we had an incident. There was ransomware on the network, and this was maybe a resume generating experience for this user. So he tried contacting his cyber insurance, and anyone who knows cyber insurance knows that that is never the time you want to be contacting your cyber insurance for the first time. You call them, and they love playing phone tag with you. And by phone tag, I mean tag they're it, and they'll never talk to you again. So reached out to cyber insurance to figure out what they're supposed to do, got ghosted. Well, this is a Friday afternoon. Saturday, Sunday comes around. Now we're 72 hours into an incident. Ransomware is across the network running rampant, and cyber insurance is nowhere to be found. Well, what are we supposed to do? Yeah, not a great look for our network engineer. So our network engineer decides to call the cyber response team. Cyber response team is a group put on by Wisconsin Emergency Management, and we'll get to that here in a second. We were able to come in and help remediate the threat, and everyone's happy, and cyber insurance didn't pay out or never even contacted the person again. But we got that taken care of. So I bring that story in because we understand the severity and gravity of these kinds of situations. How long can we let an actual incident on our network? What if we are a school? What if we are a bank? What if we're something like that? Again, any of these critical infrastructure, and we have someone coming in and causing terror on our networks for 72 hours. I don't think anyone is totally happy with that kind of an incident. So our mission for the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team is to provide support for critical infrastructure, public sector, government, yada, yada, yada. The big thing is our vision, which is in both preventing and responding to events in any cyber emergency. And that's critical because obviously response is a good part, but also, preventative measures is going to make sure that those 72 hours never come, hopefully, and that people can actually have a little bit better understanding of what their network looks like and how to maintain it. So, like I said, we work directly with the Wisconsin Emergency Management. They work with our vision, and they really facilitate a lot of the emergency management side of things. A lot of us in IT, we're really good at following playbooks, we're really good at following rules and regulations. We don't really know how to deal with people outside of our areas of expertise. And so a lot of this stuff gets taken by emergency management. So they'll step in and they will lead the coordinating efforts with local, state, and federal agencies so that we don't have to deal with any of that stuff. For us, we just go in, we solve these incidents, we solve problems for them, we help remediate these threats, and then we get out and we go have some Dave's Hot Chicken or something like that. I think that there's some interesting pieces from this slide specifically. The last part, recovering from disasters. I want to hit on that because I do think that cyber attacks have become disasters, and we'll kind of get into that as well, but that's just one key piece that I want people to understand. So leveraging us, the big part of this is if you wanted to, get a volunteer group together to say, hey, I need you guys to remediate threats on my network, I need you guys to solve all these problems, you would call out to our organization, which is Wisconsin Emergency Management, and they have the structure already set up. So volunteer groups such as CERT, so if you had like tornado or you had a hurricane in your area, whatever, they already have teams that are dedicated to dealing with some of those disaster recovery. Incident management teams, not like incident response teams, that's a little bit different. That's going to be, again, for chemical spills or things like that. Volunteer organizations, which is what we would fall under, and then Business Emergency Operations Center. So if you're not super versed in the world surrounding threat actors, we can circle back to that disaster piece. We want to look at something like NotPetya. If you haven't heard about NotPetya, it's one of the craziest events in cyber history, cyber world stuff, that really caused a huge outage across the world as a whole. It was originally designed for Ukraine, but as we look at it, the attacks were found in France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Russia, the UK, Australia, and even at our own doorstep. It knocked out retail, financial, medical, transportation, and more as it left wake in its disaster. And the Department of Homeland Security stated that in total damages, it exceeded over $10 billion. And obviously the most impacted that we know from the US and internationally was Merck, which I'm sure you're all aware of. But this brings up an interesting part of the financial impact. We're moving away from cyber attacks just being these low-level get in, get out, whatever. They can take down your networks for long periods of time, and you would not be able to respond to them, and then you're losing out on potentially millions and billions of dollars. And in cases, in critical infrastructure that we've done, we've gone to schools, hospitals, and it could actually be life-threatening, which you're transcending the cyber world and the real world, and people don't think of those actual implications. So current organization, we work directly with the National Guard. We work with Department of Defense, DHS, DOJ, and we work with SLTTs, which is your state, local, territorial, and tribal groups. So we work directly with all state and federal groups to be able to accomplish our goals. We actually will get a call in, so imagine, again, we talk about the story, the school gets ransomware and they call in, they say, hey, help, we're stuck, we don't know what to do. We have a volunteer force of up to 30, 40 people in less than 15 minutes who can be on the ground, taking action and resolving these incidents. This year alone, we've had quite a few. It's not always just ransomware. We do other incidents as well. But we do have some training, assessment, resources, and incident response support from some of these groups as well as others. We are opening up to private and public sponsors and partnerships as well to help facilitate some of those trainings and growth. So now we're finally getting into how this all works. So members and structures. Currently we have 466 members on roster. We've got some of these awesome team leads who unfortunately couldn't be here today because they're also speaking at other conferences, and other full-time facilitators as well. We do have 2 separate tiers currently, so general members, anyone can sign up to be a general member, and I encourage this to all groups. You get threat intelligence feeds from the DOJ, DHS, and the DoD, as well as a lot of training that is provided by the government as well as local groups. University of Whitewater is one that I would love to call out because they do a lot of really important things and love the facility over there. But anyone can join, and we've actually gotten some teachers as well as some nurses who have signed up. We've trained them up in how to do incident response and how to do digital forensics things. Not that we're hoping that they need to, but in case something were to happen, they could actually pull forensics evidence for us and know exactly how to do it to DOJ standards and give that evidence as needed to be perfect chain of custody. And on top of that, we do have full-time incident responders. We have a fusion center, which is, again, that threat intelligence piece. We do assessments, which is provided by CISA. So CISA will actually come, and we're all paying for it. We all pay taxes. We don't evade taxes. So we all pay for assessments where CISA will come out and we say, hey, come on and actually do an assessment of my business. They'll come and do a pen test and give you the write-up. And so, if you guys need auditing, which we all need auditing, we don't evade auditing, then you have them come out and do it for free. It's a service that's all taken care of. And also administration side, coming to talks and doing things like this. We also were at B-Sides Milwaukee. We're going to a bunch of different conferences to spread the word and also grow this because we're not the only state that is doing this, but we are one of the leaders. So part of our training is we do quarterly trainings where we get people in person, and we're starting to do a remote as well. Anyone can be a part of this. So again, if you're a general member, you can sign up and get training from DOD, DHS, DOJ, as well as some of the other really cool trainings that we offer. So people will go through SANS classes, and they'll bring a lot of that SANS stuff back. We've had O.V. Carroll, who is a SANS instructor. He's actually come and give plenty of side conversation trainings because he just really is a big fan of what we do, and we really like him. So a great person to have around. And we also offer InfoSec Skills, which is an online platform similar to Pluralsight, where you can learn and build your skill sets as well. And obviously, again, UW Whitewater, we work directly with them, and we're very thankful for them. We did touch on the assessments piece, but I want to dive a little bit more into it. Not only do they do pen testing, but they also do ransomware vulnerability. So a lot of businesses are worried about that ransomware piece. How would it affect you? Well, guess what? We can tell you in a good manner, this is exactly how it would work. And we'll only focus on that one ransomware piece. So we'll come in and do the assessment just for that, so we can make sure you are, taken care of and you have the understanding of how would it impact you. What would that look like? Build that playbook, because most of these schools, businesses, hospitals don't have playbooks built out for this stuff. And then obviously internal and external pen testing. Incident response, which we will hit on a little bit more, and then preparedness and incident response planning. We are offering planning to these critical infrastructure groups. So we do it through CISA or we do it directly with them. So they can reach out to CISA and we can either work with CISA or we can do it ourselves, where we come out and we actually set up the playbooks for all these different things, as well as we do tabletop exercises and kind of build up your cyber response team and incident response team if you have one. If not, we kind of help supplement some of those things with you as well. So a few pictures from our annual training where we got everyone from the Midwest region together. We did a red team and blue team event. The red team just got back from a deployment, so they were very rough. And the blue team had to defend against them, so red team's attacking, blue team's defending, and we were working on critical infrastructure such as hospitals. We had a traffic light facility, electrical facility, and a water treatment facility. And I will say our team that did really awesome could not stop them from contaminating the water and pretty much destroying our city. So, I mean, we're getting there, but, you know, it's little by little. So that's why we practice these kinds of things. You know, the hackers are really impressive and they are good, but we need to be better than them. So this is a kind of group where we get together, we practice those things, because I don't know about how many of you are practicing on SCADA and how to remediate threats on SCADA. I don't do that for a living, but it's once you start learning how to do it, it's kind of addicting. You want to know how to do it. So. Again, we kind of talked on assessment, so I'm not going to dive too much into that, but if any of this is interesting to you, we do talk on a lot of these things. So again, cross-sector goals, evaluation tools, table talks exercises. I do want to hit on the phishing campaign assessments. Plenty of groups say that they do phishing campaign assessments, but it's just like this little training thing. We're going to send a fun little fish, and it's got nothing to do with whatever. Prime example, we had one recently that was like, oh yeah, we offer training phishing exercises, but I'm like, okay, let's look at what you have. It was like, hey, your Netflix is expiring. Okay, well, who signed up for Netflix on their work account? Raise a hands. Okay, well, you know what, I take it back, so. But no one signed up for Netflix on their account. So surprisingly, it didn't get anyone, and then they're like, oh, we have a 100% success rate. I'm sure you do, bud. Like, that's fantastic. But in all reality, that's just not how the game's played. You need to be more effective with how you do your training and assessments. And yeah, I understand people don't want to see the videos, but if you actually get them to where they understand why that they're doing, you know, these trainings and assessments, especially on phishing, surprise, surprise, like your success rates are going to go up. People are more engaged. They're not going to click on the phishing links. And if they see something that is interesting or weird, they're going to let you know. So yeah, we've seen a big success with trying to, you know, push that and really focus on the phishing training stuff. So we talked about incidents. I want to kind of demonstrate what we've done as the CRT in the past couple years. So from 2022, these are kind of the types of incidents that we've done. So not just ransomware, though everyone loves that. It's like the cool, fun thing that we do. We've done a bunch of other things as well. We had 1 municipality, 4 counties, and 14 of that 19, 14 K through 12. So schools are usually our biggest customer. And I don't want to say customer, but yeah. 2023, we saw a huge uptick. So January through November, so not even the entire year was 27. So increase drastically. And again, we see our biggest repeat customer be K through 12. And just to give you quick numbers of this year, I don't have a slide for it, but 2024, we've had 10 incidents up to this point, and only 1 incident last month. So it was all, February was super busy. And majority have been K through 12. Again, surprise, surprise to no one. So why is that? Underfunded, underloved. We need to appreciate our teachers, come on. So we want to work with them, we want to train them, we want to build them up. I do have to hit on the support element that we get from the National Guard. We work directly with them, so if we needed to do a deployment, we can do that as CRT. They do treat us as a extension of the National Guard in the cyber branch. We have been deployed on occasion. What they do is they just bring us in, we'll work the event with them. We're free to come and go as we please, whereas, you know, they've got orders, they have to stick around a little bit longer. But we deploy the same way that they do, and we try to be an extension of what they do. But we're treated obviously as civilians. We deal with a lot of information that has to be managed, but again, the incident responders have to go through a vetting process and get that all taken care of. We did touch on the planning and review and cyber response team capabilities. I just want to highlight these again. So this is a lot of what we go through. Preparedness planning, incident response plan, assessments, pretty much all of these things. And then obviously our best practices list. So anyone who's interested and wants to reach out to me and say, hey, these are not best practices, I want to hear why. Let's go over what best practices are. We share this regularly, again, with those K through 12, through any of those critical infrastructures that we reach out to, and we want to, have the best of the best up there. But if you have issues, let's update this and get it the best that it needs to be. We found that by repeating this early and often, though, people are really receptive and want to keep their company data and identity safe. So, surprise, surprise, you show this to kids, even K through 12, you're like, hey, these are things that you need to be doing. You start realizing that none of them have used MFA. And if they do, it's because they were forced to. Most of them are not actually doing good password practices. They have the same password for everything, which most of us honestly do that as well, so we probably shouldn't do that. And then backups is obviously a huge one in these ransomware incidents. And this year alone, we've had 3 ransomware incidents. Of those 10 incidents that we've done, 3 of them were ransomware, and all of them did affect K through 12. So again, circling back to the critical infrastructure for education, which is the biggest one. So joining CRT. The group that we're wanting to recruit you all for. So all of you as incident responders or red teamers or whatever you do, wherever you are, if you work in critical infrastructure, why aren't you helping? Why are we not answering the call? Why are we not doing the things to help each other out? That's been one of the bigger questions. And we're not the only group. Again, I kind of alluded to that. Wisconsin CRT started in 2015, but since then, we've helped other groups in the area grow as well. So Illinois has a response team, Michigan, Minnesota, Indiana is starting theirs back up. Iowa, we're getting on board, and funny enough, one of the people from our group is speaking in Oklahoma today because they're launching theirs as of this weekend. So we've been helping every state kind of adopt this program. We think that all people should be able to volunteer and do cyber response just as you'd be able to help with a chemical spill or help in a tornado incident, or just be generally prepared for any of these cyber disasters and how they would affect you in the long-term grand scheme of things. So if you're interested, we have ways of joining. Obviously, you can go to the website, fill out a membership application. There is a background process like I talked about. They'll want to know some of your skills and assessments. It's very much just a quick hey, I use Word every day, so I'm like a 5 out of 5, just super good at it. And then obviously, I don't know anything with firewalls, so just a 0. And then I will have a slide with a QR code that you can scan, and I promise it's not phishing this time. So you can go ahead and scan those if you want. And that's my personal LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me with any questions, comments, concerns, jokes. Obviously jokes, we love those. And we can kind of talk about how all of this works. So really, the long story short of all this is we need the help, all the help we can get to protect our state's critical infrastructure as well as the nation's. These attacks are coming from anywhere and everywhere, and it's not like it used to be where, 5 years ago even, state actors weren't looking for, these mom and pop shops. They weren't looking for high schools. They weren't looking for junior highs. Next thing you know, they're pwned by some really large country over in the east, just because they had something open that they were looking for actually from a big company like Microsoft or Amazon. So these nation states are actually hitting some of these smaller places, and we do need to think about that, where it's okay, just do best practices. Let's do some vulnerability assessments. CISA's offering it for free since we pay our taxes. So we have them come in, they scan it, they say, hey, we're protecting against these things. We fixed them, we remediated it. Okay, well, we need to semi-do that regularly. Well, we've got people who can answer the call in case something does go awry, and we are trained and we're ready. We want to be there. We're ready for this kind of thing. So that is the Wisconsin CRT, and if you're interested, feel free to join. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes? Yeah.
And as part of the audit, it includes business continuity.
Yes.
And ransomware and cybersecurity are all threats these days.
Absolutely.
Typically, the automotive suppliers, practically all of the automotive OEMs out there, they get just-in-time delivery from the suppliers.
Yes.
So if the suppliers hit with a cyber attack, they lock up their
Yes, absolutely.
So it's pretty intense pressure. So if it's a mid to large size automotive supplier, they are risking going out of business.
Potentially millions, yeah, yeah.
So when it comes to ransomware, your mid to large size automotive supplier, they specialize in making a widget. They don't have a Bitcoin account
Yeah,
that they can use to make a payment
yeah,
for ransomware.
yep,
So there's only two options. One is pay up, or the other is like the U.S. government, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
right.
So what is your response to situations like that? You know, the Joe Schmo out there is not going to have a Bitcoin account, but in a ransomware attack where they are risking shutting
Losing
down
their
the
business, yeah.
what recourse do they have?
Yeah, so quick recap, talking about doing automotive assessments and audits, kind of talking about ransomware and how that would bring them to a halt if they were to get ransomed, or even their third party, where there is penalties if they are not up and running. It's not just your sector, by the way. That's a bunch of other sectors, financial sector as well. You can't be, I used to work for a bank, and if you were down for more than 48 hours, you were very close to running out of business. So you have to have uptime per FDIC, and it's very similar. So the question was, how do you deal with those kinds of things? If there is a third-party attack, you have to pay up ransom, and you don't have like Bitcoin or whatever laying around. And that's completely understandable. Not everyone does, and why would you? You don't really just kind of, have a wallet planned and prepped for that. Some people do, and doomsday preppers, I guess. But in all reality, cyber insurance, that's one of the big things. And cyber insurance is fantastic, but it's also one of those things where most people have policies and they don't actually know what's in their policy. We run into this so often with those Wisconsin CRT. We've had plenty of times where the policy says, hey, if there's ransomware, you can't talk to anyone about this. You can't do anything about this. Also, we're only going to pay if it's, billions of dollars. It's like, well, they're only asking for and these threat actors can also see these cyber policies and have seen them, and they know exactly what they're asking for. So they say, hey, we're going to ask for $2 less than what the insurance will pay out. So then, or they ask exactly what the insurance is going to pay out. So that's kind of what, the threat actors are starting to do. They're doing exactly what the payout is because they know they'll get paid out every time. But the policies are kind of interesting. So if you haven't reviewed your cyber insurance policy, highly recommend doing so. Also, you can add Wisconsin CRT into that contingency plan. So you can say, hey, we want a forensics team to come in. You can obviously have part of cyber insurance. Some will say oh, we want a certified perfect team like Kroll to come in and to be able to do something really impressive. Awesome, great. But you can also say we want supplemental forces such as the CRT, extra hands. Many hands makes light work. So you can add them as well, or you can have, if they say that they're cool with you bringing in whatever team, obviously we would say that we do really good and we're a free resource, again, funded by the state, versus you having to pay crazy amounts out of the pocket to where, you need to go and get some of these expensive groups. So yeah, that kind of goes for that. So just review your cyber insurance policies. We do even offer for those quarterly trainings where we will go through your cyber insurance policy. We even call the cyber insurance hotline and we test to see how long it takes. And surprise, surprise, we had one that was 6 weeks. They just got back to them. What are you supposed to, 6 weeks for cyber insurance? We're hey, we're calling about ransomware. We didn't even say it was a test. We're hey, we're ransomed. What are you guys gonna do? 6 weeks later, oh, hey, we're here for you guys. What's up? Oh, I don't know about you, but I did a lot in 6 weeks. So it's not really, you're rebuilding your network at that point. You're totally just, again, you can't accrue those costs. You can't deal with those penalties. You're screwed at that point. So if you're not reassessing hey, not just what does the policy do, but will they even contact you? Will they even talk with you when these kinds of things happen? Because surprisingly, they don't a lot of the time. But we do assessments on them. We go over them. We'll read the policies. We'll check the policies. And we do some, again, tabletopping where we're hey, part of the tabletop is call your cyber insurance and see if they actually like you guys or not, and kind of go that way. So any other questions? Yeah.
Have you ever gotten pushback from a cyber insurance company not wanting the CRT to be engaged, or from private sector about
So, couple good questions. The big one was, have we had kickback from cyber insurance? Yes, we've had plenty of cyber insurance where, again, it wasn't written into the policy where we could do it. They reached out to us because, again, the state's like, yo, this is a problem. We need someone to handle it. And then by the time that they've already contacted us, we've already gone through a bunch of stuff. They're like, hey, have they pulled images? Have they pulled forensic stuff? Yes. Oh, well, yeah, your policy says they can't do that. And it didn't, but, you know, whatever. And so then they were like, yeah, we're not going to pay out no matter what. Granted, it worked out, they didn't need to, but we've had a few times where that, and again, this is why people need to be looking at their policies to understand where this is. The second part of your question, which was NDA stuff. So if we're doing private versus public, again, anything critical infrastructure, it can be private or public. We do NDAs. We have our own that we go through. Again, we do background vetting and process. We go through InfraGard as well as some other background processes. We have our own NDA style where we get that all signed and ready to go. But some other companies and or businesses will say, hey, we have our own specialized one that we want to have it on our record. Completely fine. Anyone who's on or works any of those incidents will go through that as well. So yeah, we don't publicly disclose. Even in some of the cases that I've talked about, I haven't listed any of the districts or schools, just so we're clear. And I won't. But I can say, like, we've dealt with like fire departments, we've dealt with you know, hospitals, police departments, we've dealt with maritime, we've dealt with traffic, we've dealt with electricity. So really, when it comes down to critical infrastructure, it could be anything, whether it's privatized or public, and so we work directly with them. So great questions. Yes.
If I'm involved in school board or in local government, what's the best way to get them to contact you?
That is a great question. So the best way to contact, well, if you're already a member, you could just like ping us on Slack and be like, hey, got questions. But if you're not a member, you can reach out via any of the phone numbers, which have all been the same. 800-943-0003 and option 2. Because this is WEM, which is Wisconsin Emergency Management. It's not just cyber stuff. So we very quickly specify, like, just go straight to the cyber stuff. You don't have to deal with like tornadoes and fires. Nobody cares about that. So that's the best way to reach out. Any other questions? Perfect. We can end early. Thank you all for coming.